Good evening, everyone. Pastor Larry here and my wife Linda, and we are here on Thursday night for Q&A. This is where you ask us questions, and we try to give you the best answers that we possibly can. And what do you think about that, Linda?
Cool.
She thinks it's cool, so it must be good. So we're going to jump right into it. We're so glad you joined us tonight. We have a lot of great content every week here at Victory. Wednesday night we have service. Sunday morning we've got something going on. But tonight is a night where you actually ask questions. And we have so many questions that there's no way we'll be able to get them already. A lot of times they're live. The questions are coming in live. But tonight we've got so many that we're just going to try to answer as many of them as we can. So we're going to just crank it up and start with the first one. So how long have you guys been together? Linda, I'll let you answer that one.
We just had our 36th wedding anniversary on April 14th.
Yep, 36 years we've been together, getting close to 40. Yeah, so that's a lot of years. But that's really cool is because my grandparents, they were married 73 years. So we're kind of catching up to them, but we still have a long way to go. So we'll jump to the second one, number 2. How did you guys meet?
We met at church. You can hear. We met at church.
Yeah, we met at a church in California, and that was many, many years ago, and we've been together ever since. So it was a pretty nondescript meeting, but there's a crazy story behind it, but we'd be here all night if we had to tell that story. Actually, Linda has got it on her Facebook page on how we got together, but it's a pretty crazy story. Let's look at the next one. Okay, what accomplishments are you most proud of individually and as a couple?
Hands down, my kids.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. You know, a lot of pastors and even missionaries, actually, most missionary kids, 85% of them, they end up turning away from God. And I think pastors' kids, I think it's between 50 to 60%. So here it is, people that are in ministry, a lot of times their kids don't even end up serving God. Even some famous people you might have heard of, like Katy Perry, the singer, and Jessica Simpson. But we're just so glad that, you know, our kids, Daniel and Derek, they're serving Jesus and they're living for him, and we're just so happy about that because it wouldn't be worth it being in ministry trying to reach people and then your own kids don't have a relationship with God. So we're so happy about that. Anything else about that? No? That's it? Okay, craziest thing you ever done, Linda? What's the craziest thing?
I think the craziest thing is going to a third world country to start a church, and we'd never been there, never heard anything about it, didn't know anything. Fiji, thought that was a camera film place or something. And to just go overseas, and the first time ever, actually, besides going to Germany, it's the first time I ever went out of the United States. And so it was just a mind blower. Start a church by ourselves. It's not like we had a big team. It was us and the boys, and that was it.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy time where we literally, when we landed in Fiji, in our town, we didn't know one single person. We'd never been there before, never even seen the place, and then we're living there. So that was pretty crazy. Crazy thing that I've ever done, I mean, if you look at before I was a Christian or after, you know, there's some crazy things on both sides, but, you know, I'd be here all night telling you all the crazy things I've done, but that was pretty crazy that we went to a foreign country, never been to, and then there we are. We're there with our family, and so that I would have to say that's probably their number one. Here's one for you. You can read that one, Linda.
Linda, what was it like following Pastor Larry to Fiji? Culture shock, big time. well, it took a long time to get there because we went and visited Larry's dad in Pennsylvania and then saw our family and friends in California before going to Fiji. So it was a lot of traveling. We were exhausted. The first day we got there, we just went straight to town because we wanted to see what it was like. And it was a Saturday morning, which is the busiest day of the whole week for the town because everybody that works all week is there shopping. And there was just Hindi music blaring from the stores. There's incense burning in all the shops. People talking in 2 different languages. They spoke in Fijian and Hindi there. And just walking around. We were like little zombies just walking through the town with our eyes open like, oh my gosh. And Larry kept looking at me, and I was like, don't look, because I just knew if he looked at me, I was going to start crying. So I'm just walking through the town with my eyes real big, just thinking, oh my gosh, what have we done?
Yeah, and something that I remember that day, so here it is, it's the first day we're there, and we go into one of the grocery stores, and this kind of blew my mind because this is just how they do it there. We ended up finding a different grocery store later, but they had all the meat just in a freezer that's frozen, and it's not wrapped. It's not even wrapped. So people were in there grabbing the meat and throwing it back in, and there's people all have their hands on it. And Linda's just watching this, and she's just like flipping out. We ended up finding a better grocery store, but that kind of really tripped us out when we first saw that. It was just so different than what we're used to. And so I would say that was a huge culture shock, wouldn't you say? Definitely. Okay, Linda, was it difficult keeping your kids grounded in the Word when you're surrounded by idols and false religions?
Actually, I think them growing up in Fiji was amazing. I think it was just an absolute blessing. I think it did a lot to strengthen their faith. I know they had times that were hard on them as kids with culture and differences and feeling different because they're basically the only white kids around. So I know there were hard times for them growing up there, but I really feel like overall it was the best thing ever to raise them over there. They learned such a compassion for people. They lived simply, didn't have to have a lot of things. So neither one of them are materialistic. I don't know, I feel blessed that we all survived the teenage years and growing up over there. But overall, I feel like it was a really good experience.
Okay, what is the overall vision of the Victory Network of Churches? That's something I'm very passionate about. When we started this church 14 years ago, our desire was not just to have a church in Lehi, to reach people in Lehi. Of course, that's our main emphasis as an individual church, but it was to reach the world. We want to reach the world with the gospel. And so the vision is to plant churches throughout the United States, and then also plant churches in other countries. And so we're actively involved in a lot of missions work. We are constantly helping churches all over the world, but we want to put our footprint everywhere we can. It's not just something where we're just here in Lehi. Like I said, that's our main emphasis as a local church, but as a network of churches, that's our whole organization. It's to reach the world, and we are doing that. We have a tremendous impact in different countries, places that people don't really care about, like just a place that we are really looking into and helping is in a place called Riohacha, Colombia, which where the Wayuu Indians, that's where they live in and around that city. And it's a place out in the middle of nowhere. It's out in the desert in Colombia by the Venezuelan border. And we were just there in January, and just God did some tremendous things, and God's opening doors for us there. But we are constantly trying to reach other countries, other cities, other nations with the gospel, and that's our vision, to take the gospel all around the world. Okay, how much harder was it to plant a church in the U.S. versus another country? Do you want to share any of your input on that?
I feel like it's harder overall to do it in a foreign country just because you're alone and the culture is different, everything's different. You don't have family around, friends, anything. So that aspect of it is harder. But then the easier side of it overseas is that people in a third world country are more receptive to the gospel. They're not as hardened. They're not as self-sufficient. I feel like in the United States, we have everything we need, so we don't really need God as much. And in a third world country, they're desperate in so many areas, a lot of it in health because their health isn't as good in some instances. And so I feel like on that aspect, it's easier to do it overseas because there's such a receptiveness. We saw so many miracles, more miracles than I've ever seen in any other church we've ever had. And there's a hunger and a desire and just there's a respect for pastors and church, and there's an honor that's there that's special and helps you to do a better job when you feel honored and valued. In the United States, I feel like it's easier because you have so many more conveniences. You can get Sunday school curriculum, you can get coloring papers and crayons and things for the kids. You can get outreach materials and flyers and stuff like that. So it's easier in that respect in the United States. You have so many conveniences. But sadly, I just feel like in America, we're just a little bit too self-sufficient, and we sometimes don't think we need God as much as we do.
Yeah, it's very true. We've planted 3 churches, one in Los Angeles, one in the Fiji Islands, and then one here in Lehigh. And I would say this one was the hardest. Even though this was our 3rd one and we kind of knew what to do, it was just a lot harder, especially just the culture. And like Linda was saying, in Fiji, people were very open to the gospel. And we saw tremendous miracles and results. And so it was definitely a lot harder planting this church here in Lehigh Acres. Okay, what if one spouse is called to ministry, but the other does not feel called? How can God use them if they are not equally yoked? That's a great question. And something you have to think about is, one is, if a couple is married and one is saved and one is not, that's being unequally yoked, and that can be a massive problem. That's why if somebody's a Christian, they shouldn't marry somebody who's not a Christian. But then sometimes people are married, and then the husband or the wife gets saved, and that is tough sometimes on the wife or the husband when they have a spouse that's not serving God. But as far as ministry, you can have that even in ministry where somebody, like say a guy is called to be a pastor and his wife doesn't want to do it. Well, it's not going to happen. And so that's another thing, is when people are going to get married and they're picking out that wife or that husband that they want to marry, they need to make sure that they are equally yoked as far as ministry too. Because if one has a desire to do, like maybe you have a lady who wants to be a missionary and she marries a guy who doesn't want that, well, it's not going to happen. And so that's a problem. And so I think you have to do that on the front end before you even get married. Like, hey, are we equally yoked in what we feel God's calling us to do? And if you don't do that, it's going to be very difficult, because you have to do it together. As a husband and wife, it's always about doing it together, right? That's what we've done.
Yep.
So let's look at the next one here. Okay, what is your favorite place to go on a missions trip, Linda?
I like Italy and London, mostly because of the churches that we go and help there. The people in Italy are just amazing. Some of the best people in the world. Their hearts for God are just it's just they're amazing. They're friendly. They know what community is all about. You just go after church. Nobody cares what time it is that they have to work tomorrow. They'll stay up all night laughing and fellowshipping and visiting, and it's just they just have such a hunger for God and such a love for each other. So I really love Italy, and I love London too, just because it's also amazing church. We're good friends with Pastor Clement and Tracy Ann, and it's just a fun church. It's a fun place to go, and it's cool to see London too. But those are my favorite places. I don't really go that often with Larry. I don't like traveling, and I'd rather just stay home and hear about it. But if I'm going to go, those are the two places that I'll say, all right, I'll go.
Yeah, I don't have to twist her arm on those two. But I would say mine is I like just keep going to new places. I enjoy Italy just because of the people. Actually, some of the folks from Italy used to be in Venezuela, and I used to love going down there just because they're just such awesome people. But I've been to many different places. I've been in 56 different countries, and I like keep going to different places and meeting different people. Like last year was the first time I went to Nigeria. And just the people were just amazing there. Just a connection with them. And so I like going to different places. I'm scheduled to go this year for a new place, Uganda. And so I'm looking forward to that. I hope that I can go with all the stuff that's going on. And so I enjoy going to different places. And so I'm keep pushing the envelope. The Bible says go into all the world and preach the gospel, and that's what I'm trying to do. Go to a lot of different countries and bring the word to them. And so every trip I enjoy, and I like going to different ones. Okay, why do you always say that to plant a church, it should be a couple? Is it in the Bible? That's a great question. People say, well, why couldn't a single person go out and pastor a church? Why couldn't somebody that's not married do it? Can they? Yeah, they could, but it's hard enough if you're married. Because when you're starting out in ministry, you don't have anybody. And so when you, in my case, say, there's ladies getting saved. Linda was able to work with them and disciple them, and then, or vice versa. If guys are getting saved, I'm able to work with them. And if you just have a single person, it makes it very difficult. Now, there might be some places like maybe China where it's underground and it's better just have one person. I could see, they have an underground church or something like that. But to plant a church, especially in the United States, to do it with one person, it's brutal. I would highly suggest not to do that. It's better to have a couple to do it, and if they have kids, especially teenage kids, amen, that's even better. Like when we planted this church, we were very fortunate to have Pastor Daniel and Derek to help us, because if they weren't around, it would have been a lot harder. So if people are going to plant churches, it's better to send them out in couples. Okay, who is your favorite, Daniel or Derek? Why or why not?
Ask them, and they'll both say the other one. It's been the bane of my existence as a mother. He's your favorite. He's your favorite. Neither one. I love them both incredibly to the tippy top and over of my heart, and could not ever pick. And if I had to die choosing one, I'd just have to die because I couldn't choose.
That's right. There's no favorite, okay? We love them both. And something I used to do, some of you will not like this, but this is something I do. They'd always be fighting, like, oh, he's your favorite, or, I'm my favorite. And then they'd be fighting, and then, I said, oh, if you're going to fight, we're going to put the gloves on. So I'd have them put boxing gloves on, and I was the referee, man. I go, ding, ding, and then they'd fight it, and then anything, they had to do it in the ring, not like, without referee attention there. And so, but we love them both. We love them both. They both drive us crazy too, but we still love them. We love them. So I don't know, do we have more time for some more questions, or we're running out of time? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Okay. So maybe you can throw some more questions up there, or if you guys want to text some in. I don't know if we have a text support. No, we don't have that? Okay. Okay, we have some others that we can maybe throw up there, and we can answer a few more.
Here's that Daniel and Derek question again.
You know what's crazy is that we thought that we would be going over, but we answered them pretty quick, didn't we? I think we did pretty good. So we didn't go too long, and just, you know, we wanted to make sure we answered them correctly.
I'll answer one while they're looking for some. There was a question in there earlier about why don't I like football? Because I don't like anything that's not of God.
Oh.
I hate football. I hate it. I hate it. I know tonight's draft pick, and you guys are all excited.
Yes,
I
go
think
Pack, go Pack,
it's
go.
It's ridiculous to pay people so much money to chase the ball around a field. And I think it's the most stressful, anxiety-inducing thing to sit and watch. I literally can't handle watching it. I get so tense because I'll pick a team, and then I'll just get too tense. And so it's like not worth the anxiety.
See, this is what I talked about, being unequally yoked. See, I should have thought about that before me and Linda got married. I said, hey, are you a Packer fan?
Hey, I root for the Packers for you, but if we're going to play that, the Eagles is the best team. Because their uniforms are the prettiest.
She'll say, oh, I knew they'd blow it. They always blow it.
They do. Do you notice the Packers choke every time?
Okay, listen to this. The Green Bay Packers have won more championships than any other team. So don't forget that, okay? Don't anyone else forget that. 13 championships.
36 years we've been married. 36 years I've heard that song.
That's it. It's good. It's a good song. It's a righteous song.
Who's your biggest influences?
Who's my biggest influences?
Besides the Packers.
Well, I would say I have quite a few. One is Pastor Tommy Alvarez in El Centro. He's a pastor that I've known for almost 30 years, and he's a real church planter. And just watching his life and what he's accomplished, and that's really influenced me. Pastor Tony from India. Just amazing man of God, and just whenever I'm around him, I'm just like asking him everything I could possibly ask, and I've learned so much from him, and just what he's accomplished is amazing in India, and so he's been a tremendous influence on me, and Pastor Pyle and Georgianne, just their godliness and love. That's influenced my life for many years. So how about you?
My biggest influence? I don't know. Can't really think. You.
Me? Oh, thank you.
And my mom. I have to say my mom.
Yeah, Oma. She's a good lady, man. She's a good lady. What else have we got here?
All right.
That's it? Okay, you guys. We are so glad you hung out with us for a few minutes on Thursday night. And remember, we've got lots of content coming. Friday night, Sunday morning is our service, and Wednesday. And don't forget, it's draft night, and the Packers are going to get the missing pieces to win the Super Bowl this year. So don't forget that. Go Pack, go. God bless you guys, and we'll see you next time.